While she's setting up here, I'd like to first off thank the Clinton Climate Initiative for inviting me here to speak today, and I'd like to thank you all for traveling over here. I'd also like to especially thanks Mr. James Mast out there from Portland. He gave a pretty good introduction to what we're doing as a company. My name is Colin Read. I'm from a company called Ecotality. What I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about what we're doing in the United States, and then really dive into the topic of the discussion, which is who finances the infrastructure. In the United States, Ecotality has been awarded a very substantial grant. It's approximately $122.8 million. It's matched exactly by private investment by ourselves, so the total project value is $245 million. We're going to be deploying 15,000 charging stations to support the first 5,700 Nissan Leaf vehicles deployed in specific states, as well as the first 2,600 Chevy Volt vehicles that are just deployed in specific states. The way this project works is when you sign up to purchase one of these cars, and if you are in one of our zip codes and meet the requirements, you will get a home charger to support your vehicle. So as a result, you'll see 8,300 residential charging stations, level 2. We'll be providing, in support of that, 6,350 approximately commercial, public access charging stations, level 2. Additionally, we'll be deploying 310 fast charge ports, which we're going to be deploying a dual port system, so about 155 fast charge stations, DC fast charge stations. We're in 16 major cities, from Seattle down to San Diego, all the way over to Tennessee and Washington, D.C. Of these, we'd break them down into 5 markets: Washington, Oregon, Southern California, Arizona, and Tennessee. In each one of these markets, we'll be deploying about 1,000 to 1,500 commercial public charging stations, and about 2 dozen to 3 dozen DC fast charge stations. Some of these other markets are up there as test markets or control markets for us to see how does people use the infrastructure or not use the infrastructure, how do they charge their vehicle, how does the vehicle operate when there is not a robust commercial infrastructure in place. What we're deploying is our brand of charging stations called Blink. You'll notice it's not Ecotality charging stations, they're not descriptive. It's a consumer-facing brand. On the left there, you'll see our DC fast charger. It's a dual-port unit. There's a massive 42-inch color touchscreen on the top of that. Our 2 commercial pedestal units for public applications, as well as our residential charging station there on the right. We have color touchscreens in every one of these chargers. We have real-time communications. Just like RWE, we are a turnkey solutions provider. We provide smartphone apps. We provide internet apps, web portal bases. We don't want to just give a consumer an on-off switch. We don't want to go into their home, pull out chunks of their wall, run conduit for an on-off switch. We're trying to create a viable business model, which brings me into who's going to finance this. We believe that the financing and the build-out of infrastructure should be the private sector. Commercial retailers are the people who should be installing these chargers and making themselves beachheads for first adopters and a high-profile demographic for EV users to come and use these charging stations, to visit their stores, to purchase their products, to spend more time in their stores. So we really are focusing on what we believe is a national account strategy. So far we have BP, we have ARCO that will be deploying DC fast charge stations. We also have Best Buy, which will be installing our level 2 commercial charging stations. And we should have about 10 national accounts signed up from the end of the year. Now, I also put on this slide kind of what would be the ideal rules of the game. And I'd point out here, the ideal roles of each different division. And I point out here that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to infrastructure. What works in our markets may not work in Hong Kong. It may not work in Japan. This is a test. This project, when we look at it, is a commercial test. We have 16 Petri dishes to experiment what works best. What works in Portland is probably not going to work as good as what works in Tennessee. But what we ask is we're asking for the government to really legislate and try and somewhat get out of the way. We appreciate the funding that we've got, and we think government's there to provide proof points, to validate to the market. But infrastructure can't be built out solely upon government money. What we need the government to do is establish the rules of the game. We're not going to move into a market. We're not going to go into a city which doesn't have Standardization that doesn't have a policy on how to deploy infrastructure, who runs it, who owns it, who operates it, who resells electricity. We need to understand what the rules of the game are before we can create an open market. We need to ensure free and open markets. We can't have monopolies. A government can't just give one company the rights to provide all the hardware. A government can't give one company the rights to operate the entire back system of a charging network. That's a monopoly. That hinders innovation, it hinders competition, and it's detrimental to consumers. What we do want from governments, though, are to help us provide or help consumers in commercial locations provide incentives to remove the barriers for installation of charging stations. In our project so far, we've encountered homes that cost up to $15,000 to install a level 2 charging station. We had a fast food restaurant in Los Angeles that was quoted at over $50,000 just to install a DC fast charge station. We were then told that once you install this fast charge station, if it gets used for one time in 1 month, your electricity costs will go up over $600 because of out of use or really unapplicable demand charges. That's not going to help us foster the game here. We're not going to promote EVs with these types of barriers. We need government's help to help remove some of these legislative barriers, to help us work with some of these utilities, to make sure there is an open, competitive playing field. From a utility standpoint, let's provide favorable rates to promote adoption. Los Angeles has instituted a EV rate. We're essentially, it's your off-peak rate of 8.5 cents all the time if you're charging an EV. Again, remove harsh rate structures. So when we look at the marketplace, what we're really trying to do is we want to promote competition. We want to give consumers choice. There's a lot of people here today that talk about their infrastructure, about how they provide hardware, about how they provide solutions. Looking at some of the conferences in the United States, last year there were about 5 charging providers at the Plug-in 2009. At Plug-in 2010, there were probably about 30 or so. This space is crowded. There's a lot of people that want to play in this. There's a lot of people that want to innovate. We got to provide free choice, and with that, you're going to start seeing a robust infrastructure. You're going to start seeing things that'll benefit consumers. You're going to start seeing innovation. Thank you.